What's going on, great people in the world? It's your guy, Nicholas Wilcox, alongside my partner in crime, Johnny Main. Johnny, say what's up to the great people.
Hola, amigos and senoritas. Happy week 6.
Where's your maracas at? See, we bring the entertainment value, people.
You know what it is, man. What's going down, bro?
Well, man, just like I was just telling you earlier, I have some leagues where I have no business winning. I still have like one league where I'm still undefeated in, and there's some other leagues where I'm like kind of pissed off that I'm not further ahead. But it is what it is. But we're here to talk about Week 6. We're here at the Fantasy Football Show. We got your Week 5 reactions. We got some waiver wire talk, some trade advice. We'll see if we can dive into some Thursday Night Football if we got some time. What did you notice so far from this past week in Week 5 that you could tell the great people in the world, Johnny?
We'll start off with my Pittsburgh Steelers. One thing I can tell about them is offensively putrid. Yep. I'm going in already. I'm going in minute and 52 seconds. I'm going in already. Putrid, lackluster. I love Mike Tomlin, but this was a classic Mike Tomlin game, a game they're favorite in at home. It came out and laid an egg. But a couple other things, man, like I noticed is obviously Baltimore Ravens, man, are starting to hit their stride. Cincinnati Bengals are in trouble. Still not a team that I would want to play, but definitely in trouble. And then going back to that Pittsburgh game, man, we'll talk about it a little bit more, but CeeDee Lamb and, that situation, that's becoming very interesting. Obviously, your New York football, Jets.
Yep.
Then you and I we were talking a little bit on Sunday back and forth through text. San Francisco 49ers and Super Bowl losers of the past, man. That's a real thing for sure. And then, man, it's time we start putting some respect on Kevin O'Connell and the Minnesota Vikings, man. I definitely think that. And those are a couple of things, man, like I really just took away, man. Just
where's your rant? Come on.
KOC. But like Sam Darnold, he didn't really ball out, man. I think that was really, I don't know, man. That was more of a defensive effort from the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday. But I just think, man, I want to say there's still a lot of questions, but nobody's really pulling away from the field. I think the Minnesota Vikings are typical. I don't want to say typical, but our traditional NFC team that is better than advertised is definitely where they're at right now. Kansas City Chiefs, man, they just keep finding ways to win. And Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, like, man, crap down your leg for sure. Like, how do you throw the football 3 times from your own one to actually lose the game at the end of the game? That was very interesting. The New York Giants, bro. Let's talk about it, man. The New York Giants. Definitely a big-time underdog this week and came through, bro. So I think that's going to end up being a really fun division for sure, man. The NFC East looks like it's shaping up. Yeah, it looked like it's shaping out to be a really fun division for sure. And, Caleb Williams, man, that's another placement I want to talk about real quick, man. I definitely had a pretty solid game for sure. I think we're starting to enter the Caleb Williams phase of him being who we thought he was going to be. So that's kind of cool to see. I didn't think it was going to happen this week, man, for sure. But it looks like he's starting. The maturation process is starting for him. So, even though things didn't really, go our way and stuff, man, the way that we wanted to overall from like a prop and a pick perspective, we still had some highlights for sure, man, as far as like DFS and, just football as a whole, man, What did you say?
Brock Bowers cleared.
Brock Bowers, bro. The Denver Broncos, man. Like, there just so many crazy narratives, man. Like, just shaking, for sure. But like, it was definitely a very interesting week 5. But give me the Minnesota Vikings, give me the Kansas City Chiefs. And as much as it pains me to say this right now at this point, give me the Baltimore Ravens too, man. I'll take them as well.
Perfect. Well, 2 of those 3 teams aren't playing this week.
Yay! Yay! Can't get it wrong. Yeah.
So, you know, but we're gonna get to some of these buy low, sell highs right now, people. For week 6, we got a few names we'll get to. We'll highlight as much as some notes that we can get into as well when it comes to trekking the waters. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to improve your teams, you know. So, or if you're on top of your leagues, helping you stay at the top while staying ahead. Because again, even though it's about to be week 6, we can't take too many victory laps just yet. Trying to win our championships, trying to eat early deposits on your money, like it doesn't work that way. No. That's why we play DFS, so we bet so we can get money instantly, almost.
Instant gratification needed.
Something like that. But anyhow, first buy low candidate. Now, some of these guys, like our for especially the buys, will be a little bit more like you'll have to give up a little bit more. But we just believe in these guys moving forward in terms of like these are solid guys that you're going to want to put, you know, at least give up some decent trade value for. But that's going to depend on what you got for your rosters, what you know, trade talks are going to be like, because there's going to be sharp people like ourselves that are talking about these players or wanting to acquire these players. But you're still going to give up a decent amount. The key thing is for these buy low, sell highs, is if you are buying low on somebody, make sure you are okay with that with the rest of your roster. If that's filling a need for you, or if that's something that, you know, you're banking on a guy that is going to produce really well for you, just taking a look at what things are. And if you're selling high on some players, it's definitely a player you should be doing without, as far as like selling him high or, you know, again, selling him for something that is more stabilizing for the rest of your roster. So first player I'm going to talk about is Bijan Robinson. You know, everyone's darling, you know, shining RB that seems to just not want to give us what we want for fantasy football purposes.
Give us the touchdowns.
You know, he's only had 1 touchdown so far. He hasn't had this RB1 pure breakout performance just yet. But I expect better days to come. The next 2 weeks are going to be interesting, Johnny, because this week Atlanta plays Carolina.
Ooh.
Carolina, we know, as a defense, has been trash, to say it in one word. They rank 31st in fantasy points per allowed to running backs. And then the week after that, they get Seattle, Seattle just allowed Tyrone Tracy to run all over them. And they've allowed 4 different running backs to accumulate at least 78 yards from scrimmage. So if these 2 weeks don't tell me that Bijan Robinson is going to have the pure breakout performance that we're hoping to see, then it might be time to definitely reevaluate. But all the signs of talk about Atlanta looking really spry. I mean, we had Kirk Cousins throw for 500 passing yards. Like Drake London and Kyle Pitts both had decent games. Just Bijan Robinson just didn't have the game we were expecting based on draft price. So, Johnny, where do you stand on Bijan when you're buying him? Even if you have him, like for a guy like myself, do I have in leagues? Do I consider, you know, even trading him off to somebody else? For example, someone in a chat, my DMs, told me that they are trading Bijan Robinson for AJ Brown in a full point PPR league. So it depends on what your overall like situation is. But I told the person that I would be okay with either one of those guys in a trade. Simply put, because the Eagles are going to be a better offense in terms of, you know, a funner offense because they're finally getting healthy. But Bijan Robinson to me is still a guy. If you don't have as much running back depth and you still need someone like that, like I probably wouldn't do it unless I'm getting like a smaller piece back in return by AJ Brown. But in terms of this, what do you say to this conversation overall when it comes to Bijan and everybody screaming about him, whether it be if they have him or don't?
Well, I'll start the conversation by saying you used the word funner, so I'll give you some bonus points on that.
can always be politically correct with my language.
Yeah, no. I said funny. Yeah, he did say funny. Um, but I think like Bijan for AJ Brown. I think that's
Hey, John,
solid.
who's that?
Lee John. Janky Promoters. uh, for AJ Brown, man, I think I definitely think that's a solid trade, man. Because honestly, I was looking around like in one of my home leagues for Brees Hall for AJ Brown. So I do like that. I think that's a good call out, man, between Carolina and Seattle. Like if it doesn't pop, then definitely a lot of questions. But also too, I think one of the other things, man, we have to think about like with these type of players, right? Is number one, like what does the rest of your roster look like you mentioned? And number two, like what's your record right now? Like if you are a 2-3 team or a 3-2 team, we got to remember, right? Like the ultimate goal is to win the chip. And some of these players aren't going to come through for us more likely than not until later on in the year. Like one of my buddies, man, we always have a saying. We used to, back in the day, we used to go halfsies on DFS stuff, man. And we always used to, we always used to say, like, it's better to be losing at halftime than winning at halftime, because if you're winning at halftime, you're probably going to lose, right? And so I think it's a very similar process. Like when you think about a guy like Bijan Robinson and his production or lack thereof, he's going to get hot at some point in time, especially if Kirk Cousins continues to pick it up the way that he has. And it looks like that offense is definitely finding their groove. And the Seattle Seahawks, yeah, man, like they obviously, I wouldn't call them frauds, but I think that's definitely a defense that we would be okay starting our players against. So for me, I think, if you have Bijan Robinson or if you're trying to acquire Bijan, you obviously got to come correct for sure, because it's still name value. And there's still some people more likely than not, if you have him on your roster, your team's probably not doing so hot. So that owner is going to be looking for fair compensation, right, for Bijan. So I think, you get into, an AJ Brown. I don't even want to say maybe a guy like Amon-Ra as well. Like you could look at something like that right there. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so I think it does just depend on the construction of your roster for sure. But also too, man, if you're buying Bijan, go try to see maybe if someone has Tyler Algier. That's another way as well. You could possibly make some moves by seeing that, because it looks like Tyler Algier isn't going away. It doesn't look like it for sure, which is kind of a pain in the ass, because everybody that drafted Bijan more likely than not probably drafted him with a top 5 pick with the anticipation on he was going to be getting the work, 60 to 70% of the work. It doesn't look like it's shaking out that way, man.
Yeah, I mean, that you're not wrong on that. In terms of him just not being able to be like, just be breaking away from Tyler Algier. Like there's a reason why he's somewhat still around. Like it's still a good thing that he is, but it's also like it's like a catch-22. It's like it's good, but it also isn't because it's like you do want him to majorly run with it. What I would see really is just, again, like, if someone offered me AJ Brown, I'd really have to hardly consider it depending on the rest of my roster. Like if I'm receiver heavy, probably not. I would have to at least, Amon-Ra would be great. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like, I think it depends. It's going to vary depending on everyone's individual situation.
Let me throw one out there for you, man.
Yeah.
Like, do you do like, what about Chris Olave? I know like that's a hot button situation.
For Bijan?
Chris Olave for Bijan, partner for partner. Drake London starting to catch. Like there are some receivers that like haven't just lived up to the expectations, right? I think Brandon Ayuk finally had had a pretty solid game this week. Like, do you visit some of those wide receivers that just haven't lived up to expectations? I only want
Chris Olave like in a package for Bijan, like a very
That's
small,
fair.
like a
That's
very
fair.
like, if you gave me Chris Olave for Bijan straight up, I probably wouldn't do that because I know Bijan Robinson. We still haven't seen the ceiling, but it's going to be there still.
It's getting shaky, man. It's getting shaky.
I know it is.
Getting shaky.
And then that's what I'm saying. Some people can't hold it out, which is understandable. Yeah. I'm just one of those things that there's certain guys that I just want to die on a hill on. And if I'm wrong about them, I'm wrong about them. But there's other guys I'm definitely more bendable on. But I want Chris Olave with at least another smaller piece. So Chris Olave and like Javonte Williams. Chris Olave
Fair.
and
That's fair.
Chuba Hubbard for the moment, because
Yeah.
Chuba Hubbard's value might be decreasing as people talk about Jonathan Brooks more. Like, Chris Olave and Brian Robinson potentially. So just like
Yeah.
I would still need some type
That
of
might be a
defense.
little too pricey, even,
That
man.
might be a little too. That might be a little too much.
Brian Robinson probably a little too pricey.
That definitely at this moment in time,
Yeah.
he's looking stellar. But I'm just saying something along the lines of like middling running back in return type of thing. If I am in a pinch, would I still do Olave? I would probably still take the offer, but I would search for other better ones. Next guy on the buys, Breece Hall. Look, Breece Hall came out and averaged 18 fantasy points per game through weeks 1 through 3. He was the RB5. Since then, he's averaged 5.3 yards per fantasy points. Now, granted, he played against Denver, who's ranked as 9th in fantasy points per allowed to running backs. And he just faced the Vikings in London, who was number 1 in that category. Now, Breece Hall gets in week 6 playing Buffalo, who's allowed is 20th in fantasy points per allowed. So that's the overall the bottom third in points per allowed in terms of like giving up points. And then the Jets schedule gets a ton of more easier from week 10 on in terms of easier run defensive matchups. So this is the time where, again, like you say, come correct, because you still want to, if you really want to acquire Breece Hall, you're going to have to give up something that you may not totally want to give up. But I think the firing of Saleh definitely makes things, for some people, might make them even more like, I might be open to doing it because they just saw what Garrett Wilson did and everything. But also it's like, hey, I might want to see what this happens. But in terms of your thoughts on this, Johnny, where do you stand?
I'm a Breece Hall owner in a couple leagues, man. And I think like last year, like it was kind of a very similar process, right? Started off slower, and then picked up steam. And I actually, man, like I have more faith in Breece Hall coming through on the back half of things, man, than I do Bijan. I know it's both backfields are very muddy, and there's somebody behind them that is more than capable for sure. But I think obviously one of the things with Robert Saleh and the firing with him is like, bro, like you got to get your best players to football. And I think that I'm not a Jets fan by any stretch of the imagination, but feels like to me Breece Hall might be the best player on your offense, bro. And like it is asinine to think that like you're not coming up with creative ways to get him involved. So I think now is a great time for the Jets and for Breece Hall. To get him to football, man. Like there's no question about it, man. Like this is where we're at. And if this is a team that that wants to compete and wants to get into the playoffs, this is what you got to do, right? Like this is supposed to be a team that's built off of its defense. And we were just talking a little bit earlier about, your Jets of the past. It's like, man, like, hey, like if you construct a roster the way that they've constructed it, the moral of the story is you want to be able to control the ground game for sure. You want to be able to take your shots and play action with Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson. And I think like it all starts with Breece Hall. So like I'm a little bit more confident with Breece Hall moving forward as opposed to Bijan. I think Bijan obviously as a talent might actually be more talented than Breece Hall, but I think like Breece Hall overall is a pure runner. Give me Breece Hall all day long. And like I said, man, like you got to be patient, man. Like you got to be patient. And this is an offense that like it's not going to be featured with Aaron Rodgers, like as opposed to the Atlanta Falcons and playing in the dome and Kirk Cousins and all those weapons around him. This should be an offense that should be centered around Breece Hall. That's how we all drafted him. That's what worked last year for a team that had lackluster, being nice, lackluster quarterback play the second half of all year, to be honest. So I feel a lot better about Breece Hall moving forward than I do about Bijan, just given the construction of their team and just like, like where they're at, right? Like where they are at as a team. Like you have obviously the Miami Dolphins, who are, just a shell of themselves without Tua. You have the Buffalo Bills, who look good for 2 weeks. They're paper champions. They're frauds. You know what I mean? Like, it just is what it is. They had me fooled, which apparently don't take a lot this year, but they had me fooled. And then you got the Bills, you got the Pats, and you got the Dolphins. So, like, just by process of elimination, the Jets should have the best run game in the division, and that's what we signed up for, was to get 6 soft matchups against subpar defenses, and the New York Jets and Breece Hall, I feel like they're going to be able to deliver that for us.
I agree. Yeah, would I rather have Hall or Bijan at this moment in time? That's definitely a tough call. Because I actually love both running backs like they're my children. But Breece Hall has always been the one that's like, he's a Jet. But in terms of offense, like we all know the ball is going to Garrett Wilson. They'll go to Breece Hall. And it'll be a sprinkle of the other guys. In Atlanta, it's going to be London, Pitts. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes Tyler Algier.
Pitts, man. What's wrong with you? Kyle Pitts don't do shit, man. That's Darnell Mooney, man. Get it right.
I don't know. Kyle Pitts was decent for once in his lifetime, so maybe he's feeling the pressure. But Darnell Mooney is definitely someone that should be rostered more. He's still available in almost half of Yahoo leagues, and I think he's more higher in sleeper leagues. But that's why Mooney didn't make the waiver wire receiver list. Spoiler alert: if he's out there, put a claim on him.
Go get him.
But I think that with Breece Hall, it's more about like there's going to be better days for this offense. I think there's just going to be, like you said, Breece Hall is way too talented to be doing this type of stuff back to back. But he's had some pretty bad matchups back to back weeks, and again, Minnesota's still undefeated. Denver defense looking like a top 5 defense at the moment. Like, it's wild. So with Breece Hall, like his struggles last 2 games, like this should be a decent bounce back against the division rival in Buffalo. So these guys should be ready to play. And I think if you're thinking about buying low on Breece Hall, like you're gonna have to give up a decent receiver. You know what I'm saying? So like we talked about earlier, like AJ Brown straight up would be interesting. Maybe you're trying to get creative and you're giving up one of the Miami guys like a Waddle or like a Waddle and somebody else, or like maybe Tyreek Hill straight up potentially if you're really he's on bye this week. So there's a lot of different ways you can get creative. But I think definitely believer in Breece Hall a tad bit more than Bijan, just because we all know the volume that his volume won't be as in question versus Bijan. But I think that both of these guys we just talked about have obviously the cojones to get there. CD Lamb's the next buy, and it's because if I told you that at this moment in time that Lamb hasn't averaged 15 points per game this year, and that these guys have the following, what would you say to this? So Juwan Jennings, Higgins, Jaden Reed, which to me doesn't surprise me at all. But those 3 guys average 15 more points right now or more per game at the moment. Obviously, Juwan Jennings is an outlier because he had a huge game a couple weeks ago where he had 3 touchdowns. But I'm just saying, fantasy points per game wise, would that be shocking?
No, and I will tell you why it wouldn't be shocking.
Okay.
Because not only did all that happen, but CD right now has only over the last 3 games has only had 1 red zone target.
Yep.
His first read percentage is 22.9.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. And 8.9 on the A dot for CD. And 22 targets over the last 3 games. So I agree with you that that's a shocking stat. And I think, or shocking stats just combined. But one or two things, bro. Like, and I'm gonna lead more towards the other than not. Like, CD Lamb breakout game is coming. It's got to be coming. It's got to be coming, right? It's got to be coming. So like, it's got to be coming.
My question for you then becomes, what are you giving up for him?
man, if I'm
Because
trying to like,
when we look at this Dallas offense, we know this offense doesn't consistently go without him.
right,
And
it doesn't consistently go without him. But I think there's a couple things, man, right? Like, I have to go back and like, kind of take a look, but you go back and look last year, man, I'm pretty sure the last 6 to 8 games of the year where he really kind of blew up and really became like everyone's like, okay, like he's inconsistent. What'd you say?
Put people on notice.
Yeah. We can put people. Yeah, man. I mean, you go back and look at some of those games, right?
Back all right. I mean, besides Week 18, because Week 18 was obviously another blowout game as well. He was a wide receiver 2. He finished, but no one plays Week 18 unless you're playing with a bunch of losers who have no idea how to run a fantasy football league.
Love it.
Lamb had he was a wide receiver 1 against Detroit game that last week of the championship.
Detroit, who was a funnel last year, giving it up. Keep going. Right. I know Philly had to be in there twice at least, once or twice.
Miami Week 16 was wide receiver 6. He was wide receiver 9.
Yeah.
And then the week prior to that, he was wide receiver 16, wide receiver 11 against Philly. Week 13 against Seattle, which really I felt, if you want to go back a couple more weeks against the Giants, he really popped off, wide receiver 2. So it was literally after the bye week last year. Ironically, they had the same bye week.
Yeah, I remember that actually. No.
So that's where he had 3 performances that he had wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 2. And that's where we were like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? But then, like he literally won people championship games, like, for the, especially that Detroit final game if you had him, which I did. I had him in one of my leagues. It was great. I was like, thank you. No. But going back to that, going back to what we're seeing now with CeeDee Lamb, right? It's more about like look, Ferguson's still involved in this offense, which is great news. I really think they got Rico Dowell more involved, which is only going to help them long term more. And guess who he gets week 6? CeeDee Lamb does.
Oh, bro, I was just looking like his next 3 games. He should.
The Detroit Lions.
He should get ready to get big. I think it's coming, man. I think the time is coming for sure.
I honestly think so too. And even if it doesn't, like, you're buying into a guy that, again, Dallas has better days when it comes to their offense being more, pedal to the metal. Like, I just think, he was wide receiver 42 this week. You know what I'm saying? 5 catches, 62 yards on 9 targets. But I mean, his target share isn't as big as what it was beforehand, but I expect his target share to be big. He's only 21% right now when it comes to target share. Red zone target share is 16%. I think that number definitely gets a lot higher. We're talking about a guy that, is going to command eventually 28%. Like, hopefully at the very least. Maybe. But I think that this is the perfect time to buy him.
Absolutely.
Right before this Detroit game, because I think he's going to have a decent game this time around, and then they'll be on bye. So then they get San Francisco the week after that. But I think honestly,
and then they got the Falcons after that. 3 games, bro. That's those 3. Yeah, that's it.
Dallas' schedule was very favorable. If we're talking about down the stretch, after they get Houston, which is week 11, they'll have Washington getting burned all season by receivers.
Shootouts, positive games.
Tighten up a little bit. Washington defense has tightened up slightly, but not enough.
But Giants will be had.
Yeah, they'll get the Giants, Cincy, and then for the playoffs, Carolina, Tampa Bay, Philly. Like, this is the time where
if you can get there with CeeDee Lamb, and like you were saying, like, what do you offer for him? Like, the problem with CD, man, is that like you can't, man. It takes a special type of fantasy manager to be like, to completely just say, all right, you know what, man, my number 1 pick ain't going the way that like I thought it should go, and they're willing to move off of them. I think obviously as someone who is going
a 3 for 1, anything, like I'm saying, a 3 for 1, and see what goes on there. You get them offer, you offer them 2 running backs and a receiver. Like I'm saying, get creative. Offer. People are. I got a message today. I got a DM talking about Josh Allen. Just asking about if they should trade Josh Allen. It's like, look, get creative. Josh Allen and somebody else for CeeDee Lamb. Like, really that? If you're really that spoiled, you can always get another quarterback to waiver wire. So it's like, just things like that where it's like you should be shaking if you want to shake up your roster or whatever, or if somebody's down low in the standings and they know they can't win with CD Lamb, they need to get more pieces immediately. This is the time. So it's like again, it's all context based on your league and settings, or not settings, but how your overall team is, your league mates are, and stuff like that. But I think CD Lamb could be had. It'll have to be for get creative. 3 for 1, a 4 for 2. Like, just get creative with it and see what happens. Like, the important thing is just go out and see, go fishing, find out what you can nibble and stuff like that, basically. Next portion of the cells we got. First candidate for me, a guy I keep on going up and down with, but smacking him down, damn it. It's Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman to me is like, he's just been yo-yoing, and it's because again the quarterbacks have been yo-yoing. Like if we look at Pittman before Flacco's first game where he stepped in against the Pittsburgh Steelers a couple weeks ago, like if you had told me to keep on sticking with Pittman, I've been told me you're nuts. Like, look, he didn't have more than 4 catches before the Flacco game. The rest of the Flacco game, he had 6 catches, 113 yards. This past week, 5 catches, 37 yards, and a touchdown against Jacksonville. Look, man, like target share wise, guess who almost had around the same target share as him this past week? Just take a guess who it was.
Maybe CD Lamb.
No. The person.
Oh, Josh Downs, bro. Josh Downs. Okay. No. Segue. Josh Downs then.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's only because look, like Flacco is a really good quarterback. If he was starting the rest of the year, I would change my tune on it. It'd be a turnaround, be a buy low. Because, like we talked about on the prop show, the betting show, Sunday the 10th Eastern, a.m. Eastern, we talked about, I wrote up a stat line about Flacco and how he loves to target his number 1 wideouts. That's why I was pretty confident that Pittman would cross the yardage line. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But Pittman still had a solid day-ish for people who started him. But with Michael Pittman, to me, it's becoming murky when it comes to even with Flacco and how Pittman can really stand out as this wide receiver bona fide 1. And again, later by week 14, Richardson coming back this week most likely because it seems like he's already on the cusp of making sure he's already back healthy. It's just not a situation that I want to, either even buy into, or if I have them, want to get off immediately, because even this Colts offense hasn't looked like, a Shane Steichen offense where they're just constantly going tempo wise and having really production. Like Flacco just made these guys look pretty good. I would just rather have another piece of this team, like a Josh Downs, maybe me Adonai Mitchell, maybe Alec Pierce, who was looking really spry. Again, he was becoming a thing. What do you say about this overall?
Well, first of all, man, the Jags are the get right spot. That's a get right spot for everybody, and for fantasy managers, that's a place like we should all, we should all be attacking that one twice on Sunday for sure. But yeah, man, I think like obviously like if Joe Flacco's the quarterback, then yeah, like
Flacco.
You don't really want to know what I call him, really. Yeah, especially after what happened 2 weeks ago. No. Joe, go. But yeah, like no, just don't even make me go back there. What a jerk, man. But yeah, like if he was a quarterback, man, then like I definitely would be all in on Michael Pittman, man. Even before this year, man, like last year, big fan of Michael Pittman. Year before that, big fan of Michael Pittman, right? Just because like he was somebody that was getting a lot of targets and getting a lot of looks, man. But like now I think one of the things is if Indy would have won, I think you might see AR possibly a week later, but with the loss, now like obviously like in their mind, that's their best player. Like that is their thing, is him. So right. So he's got to come back out and play. But I do think you'll see like a different approach from AR or you should see a different approach from AR as far as like him trying to protect himself and things like that right there. He's probably gonna or should be playing a little bit more gingerly. But if not, man, if Joe Flacco, if he ends up being the quarterback, man, Michael Pittman to the moon. But in the meantime, like, you probably aren't going to get as much for Michael Pittman right now as you will in, say, 2 weeks if Anthony Richardson is still the quarterback, or if he's still upright from a health perspective for the Indianapolis Colts. So I think like, that's definitely somebody, if you own Michael Pittman, obviously goes without saying, and your team, doing well, go find somebody that ain't. Go try to see if you can unload this wide receiver here based off of name brand value in a couple of games that he played recently. And like over the last couple games, man, last 3 weeks as well, it's kind of just the data that I'm using. He actually has a higher ADOT than the CD Lamb over the last 3 weeks, which is kind of crazy to think about because you don't think of Michael Pittman in that same respect for sure. And then got a higher first read rate than CD Lamb over the last 3 weeks as well, man. So just over these last 3 weeks, like, if you really want to kind of use some leverage points with somebody that you could be potentially trying to trade with, overall, man, these stats are showing, hey, like, he's looking a little bit better than CD Lamb has over the last 3 weeks. And there's not going to be too many opportunities where you have to say that about Michael Pittman versus, somebody that was viewed as the number 1 overall pick in fantasy drafts.
Yeah, that's fair. Next person, Christian Kirk.
My boy.
I've liked Christian Kirk. I've been starting him in a league where I've been kind of just not having a great flex. And it's been a good ride. But now I think the ride's over. Coming into this game, like, Brian Thomas has just been that alpha receiver on the team. And it only showed more. Like, overall, like, Brian Thomas is the truth. Over 100 yards receiving, and this guy was something else. But with Christian Kirk, one more catch away from clearing the prop that we missed on.
Of course.
Good Lord. Gotta get my shit together. Brian Thomas, 5 catches, 122 yards and a score. Like, he's just proving week to week that he is definitely the alpha. Kirk, the situation coming into the year was that he wasn't playing in 12 personnel, so he was still getting played. Gabe was still playing over him in 2 wide receiver sets, and that was still the case this past week. So that's what concerns me about Christian Kirk. 1. Number 2 is that Evan Ingram just hasn't been healthy. So hopefully this is the week he comes back for some of us, like you and I, that have Ingram on teams, that he's questionable, this upcoming week. That hopefully he plays, and that puts a dent on him again because then that's where the Jags will have to go to more, 3 wide receiver sets for Christian Kirk to see the field a bit more, and Christian Kirk can still do it. I'm just concerned that I just want to see what I can get from him right now and then look to upgrade, for Kirk and somebody and upgrade our receiver, or Kirk and somebody else to upgrade at a running back position or whatever, because this is a moment in time where, Christian Kirk had a solid game. I'm saying 4 catches, 88 yards. But it was still like the Christian Kirk I want is the Christian Kirk from a couple of years ago, where he was flirting around with low-end wide receiver 1 numbers down the stretch. I just don't know if we'll get that upcoming when it comes to, Christian Kirk. He's averaged 16 points per game right now the last 3 weeks. But like I said, the Evan Ingram and him not playing over Gabe Davis to wide receiver sets, it's still like definitely not a move. Like, he's definitely a sell high kid.
Man, like, for me, dude, like, I think like it's not that Christian Kirk is bad because he's not. I think like the problem with Christian Kirk is
volume.
Well,
he needs the volume.
Yes and no. I'll say that yes and no, but I think like for him, a lot of it is situation based, right? Like for him, like if they're like, I'm trying to like, if he is in a situation where he is clearly the best wide receiver, he's all good, bro. It's all good. But like, if there's anybody that's even slightly more talented than him, then it's like he does this disappearing act. You know what I mean? Like, and I think like to your point, like Brian Thomas Jr. is somebody that like he's a real one. Like he's a real one, and like we should have seen this coming from the University of Wide Receiver, aka LSU. We should have seen that coming. You know what I mean? Like that's all them guys do is put out wide receivers, man. But like for like right now, man, like Christian Kirk, like out of wide receivers we've been talking about so far today, or that we will talk about, he's got the highest A dot. So it's they're still taking chances with him. But like they're just not hitting. And like there are some receivers too. It's easy to get lost, man, on plays that get called back and things that like we don't see because there's just too much football, not enough time, not enough eyes, right? And like even right now, man, he's got a 30% first read share over the last 3 weeks. So like, Trevor Lawrence is looking at him, man. You know what I mean? But it's not happening. So I do think he's a sell high candidate. For sure. Like I still believe in Christian Kirk. And even if not, man, like you're probably gonna have a really tough time getting rid of him, man. So when I think of Christian Kirk, man, I think about a guy like maybe DeAndre Swift. That's kind of where my mind starts to drift. Like if you're looking at potentially making any type of trades or anything, because you want to get off of somebody that's hot and you want to sell somebody that's high, I think that's a perfect trade for somebody. When you look at kind of a back and forth from a different position. But Christian Kirk, man, I just think like we all expected a lot more from this. I know I expected a lot more from this Jacksonville Jaguar offense. Christian Kirk is somebody that like I've always liked as a player. I've always thought he had game, but I think it's just very situational for him. And then like what's that?
Gets the Bears this week, who's basically have not allowed slot receivers to do their thing this year.
So
besides like Nico Collins, but doesn't really count.
Yeah, Nico's a freako, yo. I ain't gonna say what I was gonna say, man. I'm so funny. Nico's a freako. Bad boy. So yeah, man. Like I just like I said, like for me, I think the data shows that like the opportunities are still there. And it's getting kind of murky. Obviously, he was somebody that went a little bit later on, so your team may or may not look different, like having Christian Kirk on your roster. But like for me, like I said, like over the last 3 weeks, the ADOT's been there, the first reads have been there. So obviously you got to keep riding it out, especially with bye weeks, man. At this point,
Yeah, definitely. I get it. I just get creative if you're selling Christian Kirk because I just play in Chicago and then it's like against New England's pretty solid defense in general, like, and then who knows about these Jaguars at the moment, so just try to sell, see what you can get from him. Last guy on the sell high list before we move on to the waiver wire is Javonte Williams.
Oh man,
Javonte had his best game of the season versus the Raiders. He had 16 PPR points this past week. He was RB12 for the week. The Broncos moving forward don't have as much friendly running back game scripts upcoming for their schedule. Just for Javonte, for me, this whole Denver situation just frightens me. We talked about it even on the show that they're gonna have one formation. You're gonna have your usual Javonte Williams, Courtland Sutton, stuff like that. The next moment, you're gonna have freaking just the B team, little Humphrey out there, just
Jordan Little Humphrey.
Yeah, Jordan Little Humphrey, just like Josh Reynolds and all these weird cats. Marvin Mims may make an appearance. I don't know, but I don't know, man. I just don't like the interchangeable parts. You know what I'm saying? And what happens when
Audric Estime comes back?
Audric Estime comes back. When McLaughlin's still gonna be freaking taking chairs away. So I'm just not buying this performance. It's again another player that has a later bye. Again, Denver's gonna run into some weird teams upcoming that are just not gonna allow him to run the football as much with Javonte Williams. And this is the time to take him and make sure you get something for a little bit more safer at this moment in time. But am I tripping?
I think so a little bit, and I'll tell you why. It's because,
I want to hear your point.
Well, no, well, this is why, man. It's we talk about, constructions of teams and how they play. They play, and 6 weeks in, we see how they play. They're gonna play big defense. They're gonna muck the game up. They're gonna be opportunistic on defense. And if they are opportunistic on defense, what does that mean? They're going to run the football. They're going to run the football. Like, that's what it is right now. I think, yeah, like, can you sell Javonte high? Yes, you absolutely can, for sure. But, like, let's not forget, man, like, we're 2 years removed from this guy being like a fantasy sweetheart before
And
the injury.
I
You know what I
understand
mean?
that. I
Yeah.
definitely
And like,
understand.
but like, I just think that like we're in a place that like running back is it's a very scarce position. If I had Javonte, would I trade him? I would be open to trading him for sure. Like, I would definitely be open to trading him. But I just think like the game script that's probably going to present itself with the Denver Broncos, it's going to be one that's going to be centered around the run game. I think there absolutely are players like from a wide receiver perspective that you can look around and try to move. I think about, he hasn't played this week, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. But like Javonte, Calvin Ridley, I think like you look at players like of that nature, even like I think even like a Christian Kirk, right? Like you look around at those type of cats or receivers that like haven't necessarily lived up to the bill so far. And Javonte is just now starting to catch, had a really good game against the Raiders, right? So I don't know, man. Like I think selling high, I think there's a fine line between selling high and holding tight. And I think it's very easy to see why you would want to sell high on him, because would you get another game that looks like this against another team? Maybe not. But
might have the opportunity again. Might have the opportunity again against Carolina in a couple weeks. You know what I'm saying? But it's just, again, Chargers this week, New Orleans the next, the Carolina Panthers, then Baltimore, Kansas City. Next matchup.
Those two will be tough sledding for sure.
It's just like, so again, like this is the time where you might not have this window opportunity again until that Carolina game, which we're, projecting that he might really do well. But again, this I understand. I love Javonte, and it's more about like this is a time to at least see and find out what I can get for him, so I'm not stuck holding the bag. I love the talent of Javonte. I still think there's opportunity for him to do well, especially if they do any type of use to what they did last week, because he was targeted 6 times. The most times he was targeted this season, 5 catches, 50 yards. It's like you're hoping that's a trend, but I'm just not buying that this could probably be that for him, because again, Denver has just been and Sean Payton he's just all over the map. So I just don't. It's not exactly the player I don't trust. It's more about the coaching and the system around him at the moment. It's just
let me ask you a quick one. Let me ask you a quick one.
Oh, Jackal and Hyde. Yeah.
Let me ask you a quick one.
Yep.
All right. Let's just, for argument's sake, let's just say it is Devin Singletary / Tracy. Singletary or Javonte?
Javonte.
Yeah. So I think Tracy,
like Tyrone Tracy showed us that, look, Devin Singletary's days might be numbered.
Yeah, but like Singletary's one of them guys, man, and like from a real life perspective, every football coach likes for whatever reason. You know what I mean? So I think like, you just think about that, like Javonte or DeAndre Swift.
That would be a little bit more interesting. I might buy a hair for Javonte. It's only because I just don't love Swift like that. It's almost the same. It's almost the same scenario, because look, like Roshan Johnson can still mix in there, and then we're talking about Khalil Herbert, which I have no idea what Chicago is doing with him right now either. So it's just both, but Chicago has a leg up offensively. So it's
all right. But like, wait, hold on. I'm gonna fire. I'm gonna keep firing. Javonte Williams or Jerome Ford?
I'll probably go Ford in this one. And the only reason why is because we know he's going to get the most touches in that backfield. Like, they're still going to be Pierre Strong, and Deontay Foreman will still get every once in a while carry whatever to give him a breather. But we know Jerome Ford's, in an offense that I know Cleveland has been weird and stuff like that.
Weird. They've been trash. You being nice. They ain't been weird. They've been bad. Between weird and bad.
Has not been looking well. I get it.
Maybe weird and bad are 2 different things.
True.
But yeah.
That's true. Good arguments. I just think, again, that proves to my point about even selling high now, so I can at least get something of decency. Because if we're talking about all these running backs in the same probably tier, we talked about Ford, Singletary, and Javonte, they all ran around the same portion of the drafts anyway. I think getting something for Javonte Williams now will reap benefits for your teams later on. Waiver, week 6. Waiver wire, week 6.
Sorry.
I'm saying we're about a third away into the year now. I know, right? It's crazy. When we talk about Christmas lists and stuff. My wallet.
Yep. You better hit on some of them props, cuz.
I've been hitting them. I just haven't hit that big ticket. I was 20 yards away from Wiggs giving me a big ass ticket. Anyhow, bye weeks for week 6. Dolphins, Vikings, Chiefs, Rams. So this is like one of those. This is one of the bye weeks coming into the year where we know this is going to be somewhat vital for some teams, especially if you are lower in the standings, because you're not going to be either by injury right now, either underperformance, or just guys that you're going to need available. So, obviously, Rams guys are injured. But Cubs expect to be back week 7. So, additional trade buy low, Cooper Kupp.
My boy, Cooper. Let's go.
Additional buy low, Devon Achane. An additional buy low, Justin Jefferson. An additional buy low, man, there's a couple other buy lows on here too if you're getting frisky. But these are the times you want to buy these guys anyway. Tyreek Hill, definitely a buy low.
Jalen Waddle, a bag of peanuts right now, man.
I'll give him a quarter. Here you go, buddy. Gonna start with quarterbacks, so let me get that out of the way. Okay. Hold on. This stupid thing. Okay. Now we got it. QBs, waiver wires. So tier 1 and tier 2s. So we got Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, Kirko Chains. Tier 1.
Kirko Chains.
Tier 2, Daniel Jones, Mason Rudolph, / Will Levis, because I think Will Levis still is going to hold the job for the moment, but Mason Rudolph, if you need someone on a decent backup, hopefully ready to go for Superflex, that's interesting. But we'll let Johnny take it away with some of these QBs at the moment in terms of how he sees it.
Yeah, I'll just start off, man, with Caleb Williams. I think, like mentioned a little bit earlier, started the year off slow. Off season, I was all on him. Season starts, he's rolling a little bit slow. I think, like I said, I think we're here for him, man, for sure. And I think, when you look at, obviously, it goes without saying, right? Like the weapons around him, he's in a good situation. But then he's got the Jaguars on Sunday in the London game. The Jaguars, that's a place, man, for people to get right. I think, this is a situation where if you have any of those quarterbacks on those teams, a Patrick Mahomes, a Sam Darnold, obviously you don't want anything to do with the Dolphins. But if you have any of those other 2 guys on bye, Caleb Williams is somebody that's out there. If he's on your waiver wire, in one quarterback leagues, you obviously want to pick him up. You want to make the play with him because it's a really good situation for sure. Trevor Lawrence, coming off his best game. He was somebody that I was really, really into last week. Obviously, that part of that was matchup for sure. But obviously, this week he's going to be going against a pretty stingy Chicago Bear defense. And then last but not least, man, you already mentioned it, the boy, Kirko Chains. Kirk Cousins. Going against the Panthers. Really good matchup for sure. We just seen what Caleb Williams did to that. So kind of a little teaser and a little preview for me. If you want to know what I'm about this week, man, that's a place I'm going to be visiting in DFS is with Kirko. And it's hard because obviously you kind of have that recency bias, but also too, man, this is a good matchup for Kirk Cousins against this defense here. So give me Kirk Cousins, man. That's why they're all there. It's Caleb Williams matchup, Kirk Cousins matchup, and Trevor Lawrence, man, just because maybe got a little confidence and maybe he can keep that momentum rolling against the Chicago Bears this week.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, with Caleb, makes sense. It just makes sense as your QB2 on your rosters right now. If you help that. Trevor Lawrence, it's he's still somewhat wait and see-ish for me.
Yeah.
like in some ways, like I dropped Trevor Lawrence in a good amount of my leagues early on because it was just like, first of all, I don't like carrying two QBs like that if I don't need to. Um, so he became a little bit more expendable. And off the game against the Colts, I mean, excuse me, now against the Bears, which isn't the best matchup. Um, but if you're, again, if you have Mahomes or like um, Sam Darnold, stuff like that, like yeah, like he might be someone I might just have to play, fortunately, against Chicago. But yeah, Kirk Cochain's like obviously in Carolina, like who's again defensively it's been look awful all year.
Yeah.
They've been really freaking trash in my opinion. But yeah, there's that. Daniel Jones, we can talk about him a little bit because he's looked a little bit more like of a competent starter or a pinch starter if you need to. And it's just because like, he still has that rushing upside. Like we thought he might not do that as much, just due to like how he might again like because of the injury and stuff like that. He had the ACL. Like we didn't know how spry he was going to be off of that, but he's still willing to do so every once in a while. But he has looked like a better pocket passer lately. Back-to-back games of at least 250 pass yards or more. So I mean, if you really had to start him in a pinch, I probably want to knock you as highly as I would versus like when we started the season. But I think with Daniel Jones, like he definitely showed that he can at least be competent enough to at least do something. And then he gets Cincinnati this week, which Cincinnati's been god awful. You know what I'm saying? Against defensively, they've been god awful too. So I mean, look, Daniel Jones last week, if he can do anything like he did this past week, and if you're in a pinch this week, I wouldn't mind you going to get him. Another guy that we didn't add to the list, and he was just announced as a starter, is Drake May. Drake May starting for New England, so it's a wait and see. It's a wait and see thing. He's definitely a second tier guy. He's a wait and see thing to find out what's going on. But I think that if anything, hopefully that elevates New England's offensive weapons a bit with the move. But moving on to running backs, we got a lot of them.
I know, bro.
You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of them, but we will get right into it. We got Rico Dowell, who again, like, Rico. Oh, I mean, look, you and I called this back in the summer as well about Rico. Like, we knew sooner or later, like the Dallas Cowboys, regime was going to be like, oh yeah, we give Rico Dowell the ball. He wasn't too bad, he's better than freaking Zeke. Why are we bringing him back again? So that really started turning this past week.
Oh yeah, no,
it's cool. You can't get your Steelers, my guy.
Yeah, it's cool after you're up for 20 straight hours, man. It was sick, dude. It was awesome. Great, man. Still trying to catch up on sleep because of it, man.
Rico Dowell had 20 carries, 87 yards, and he had 2 catches, 27 yards, and a touchdown. He was the RB3 on the week, so which is pretty crazy as the RB3. But in terms of Rico, his snap percentage is still not where I want it to be, but obviously he's definitely, if he started waiver wire, definitely high waiver claim of the week for sure. Chase Brown, if he's somehow out there, that'd be crazy if he still is. Yeah. Jaylen Warren, I think he drops down to tier 2 for the moment because he may not.
Well, this is where I interject right here. As I say,
you better interject.
Well, not even just because I'm a Steeler fan, man, but because the next question I was going to ask you in the previous segment was going to be Javonte or Najee. That was going to be.
I'm glad you didn't ask me that question earlier.
Yeah, that's where I was going. Because even Jerome Ford, I feel like you just said that just to be spiteful, but
not really. But
either way, right? Like I respect it, man. But I just think if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and when Jaylen Warren does come back, they gotta get some more explosion from the run game. They gotta get there are leagues, man, where Jaylen Warren hasn't dropped. And I think they're still gonna run Najee into the wall, but Jaylen Warren is somebody we've seen what he could do last year. He became a viable flex option. So maybe not right now, man. Maybe thinking more about 2 or 3 weeks down, maybe in the week 10-ish, something like that. So he's gonna be on the field eventually, man. And health withstanding, obviously, I'm not gonna advocate for anybody to pick up someone who's injured right now. But if you have an IR spot, it's definitely not a bad place to go, man.
Sure. I mean, that's why that's why I feel like Jaylen Warren, because again, tier 1 is only for guys that pretty much really they need someone immediately. And Jalen Ward would fall into tier 2, not for talent purposes, but because like immediate usage. So him and Tank Bigsby technically should be switching. Let's answer this question for George real quick because he's been waiting. Our guy George Play,
my man,
chat, my guy.
My man.
We are doing well. Another win. He says he's 4-1. Coming to the right place for advice.
Oh yeah.
Should you trade Jordan Mason for Achane? Other running backs are Barkley and Gibbs. The only reason why I'm going to say no is because I'm a competent fantasy football producer. Emotionally, I'd still probably say no, but you gotta see what you can get besides. Instead of giving away those running backs like Barkley and Gibbs and Mason, because the only reason why you should inquire about Achane is because you overall you just want a nicer RB4. The 3 running backs you have right now, very capable running backs that should be starting the rest of the year. Unless you know something I don't know, George, yet about CMC, then you're probably keeping Mason at the moment because I know the Niners have blown back-to-back leads. Not back-to-back, but, they beat New England, which wasn't much of a game. Just going back to the Rams game where they fumbled the lead, and they didn't score no points in the second half against Arizona. But in terms of that, I would say that I would just keep Jordan Mason at the moment. Plus, Achane's on bye this week as well, so it's like you don't even need to do this trade yet. Tua is supposed to come back week 8, I believe, week 8, if everything goes well. So, yeah. But in a standard format, Jordan Mason even sounds like the better option anyway because he overall is going to produce as far as, getting the workload. There's no real question mark when it comes to the workload. If you're really looking for running back depth, and you really want to hold this situation together, just pick up Garendo. If something were to happen to George Mason, then you at least have the same situation that we had at the start of the year, where if you have CMC, then you make sure you have Mason. Now you have Mason, make sure you have Garendo. Because if Mason goes down or whatever have you, then you got Garendo in your squad. But Johnny, what do you say?
Yeah, man, I'm not making this move. I think there's definitely a lot of running backs out there on waiver for sure that you can go get. One of my favorite pastimes is, being cheap as far as fantasy goes, and sometimes I spend that way. I am. If only I could be that way in real life, man. My wife would love me even more. But there's all these running backs that we're going to be showing here in a moment. You could go out there and get those guys, man, and not have to waste a waiver claim or have to spend a whole lot of fab to get them in. So for me, I'm just not making this move, man. Right now, you got to get to the dance, man. And you get to the dance with Barkley and Gibbs and Mason for sure. Because honestly, man, to keep it $150 with you, I have a hard time seeing Christian McCaffrey come back this year.
I got $150. Where's the 50?
And I think another thing, right, to take into consideration too, George, is if the 49ers are in a situation, which we talked about, Nick and I, the only group that really actually done anything or has done anything after losing a Super Bowl, this is a great segue actually, is really the 2012 Pats. I know, George, you're smiling right now, Mr. Pats fan. And the 2013 San Francisco 49ers. But other than that, man, a lot of these teams that have went to the Super Bowl and have lost, they've had a difficult time getting back. Not even getting back to the playoffs, but making the playoffs or having substantial seasons. And I think I don't want to say I can predict the future because I totally can't. But it seems like things are shaping up that way for the 49ers. It's just they can't buy a break anywhere. And you have a superstar player like Christian McCaffrey. I think as the season progresses, you're going to see it's going to become more and more distant for them to risk putting Christian McCaffrey out on the field, especially if I don't want to say if they don't have anything to play for, but if that vision of them going to a Super Bowl or more, is not as, or the window is not as big as it was, say, a year or two ago. So that's a long-winded answer saying hanging on to Mr. Mason.
It makes sense. Nice. Next, guys, receivers. Tolbert, I mean, man.
Man, you just keep on coming back, don't you? You didn't what you would but we didn't even talk about Todd Chandler. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah, you're right.
yeah.
Good point. Good point. Good
Yeah,
point.
Todd Chandler, somebody I've been waiting on. I've been waiting on all year. I don't blame you. I want to skate by it too, man.
Go
You know
back
what
for
I
a
mean?
second.
All it's gonna be is this Pittsburgh Steeler beatdown out
Go
here,
back.
like it's been
Go
the
back.
last 2 weeks. That's all you trying to do, trying to
Tyrone
downgrade
Tracy.
my boys and talk bad about them.
So do you like Devin Singletary still, even with Tyrone Tracy doing this thing? Do you think that's more of a timeshare now? Because I think that should become more of a timeshare, in my opinion.
Oh
But
man,
only so much football to go around with the Giants, especially when
in the run game. Yeah, no, I agree. Which is the only reason why I like Singletary at the outside, man. Yeah. Which the only reason why I liked him was just because, like, he was going to be getting volume. But like, obviously, like, we're in a different season now, man. We're in the second quarter of the season. But yeah, I do think, yeah, he's definitely earned some snaps for sure. And guys that have also earned snaps is Tank Bigsby. Like, it's another situation. You probably paid more. You did pay more for Travis Etienne than you did for Devin Singletary, and now you got Tank Bigsby. Like, you got Tank Bigsby in the mix, man. I can't remember the stat I seen, but I've seen a crazy stat about Tank Bigsby in his runs. I feel like, I think 57 running backs on 25 carries. He's number one in explosive runs. That's crazy. Didn't have that on the scorecard.
Nobody
this year,
did
man.
After what happened with last year. We saw what Tank Bigsby last year. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I think, like, you got him, and then, like I said, not to skate over Todd Chandler again, man. Aaron Jones, like, this is kind of his MO, right? Like, comes right out of the gates, man, hot, looking great, looking like a league winner for you, and then he's on the shelf. But Todd Chandler looked really good last year, playing with the Vikings. He's somebody that, in best ball formats and things like that, I definitely rolled the dice on, anticipating this would happen. This was also one of the reasons why I wasn't all the way in on Aaron Jones. So I think definitely somebody you really got to give some strong consideration to this week on the waiver wire if he's still out there.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, talk about the other guys really quickly. Like, Sermon, like, we don't know its status on Jonathan Taylor, but he probably still is someone you could pick up.
Probably another week.
Spend a couple of dollars if he's still on the waiver wire. Like, probably get another week out of him. Blake Corum finally showed some promise. Like,
I know.
Got to use a couple of times in the run game. Like, you're only holding him on to him if you got Kyron on your roster. Akers and Slash still, Dare Gumawale. Man, like, I don't know what to think because Joe Mixon, that again, it's almost been like, it's been like 3 weeks almost.
Hey, he was another dude. He was another one, man. He was another one. People were paying up for, man. And like,
people were taking victory laps on Joe Mixon.
No,
victory laps,
brother.
You want
to know something, Mean Gene?
Taking mad victory laps on.
Yes, sir.
And I was like, just be careful. You know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden, Sunday Night Football. You know what I'm saying? And hadn't seen him since.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, Dario Gumawale, like, he was overall, like, getting a lot of touches, through the backfield. Akers pretty much the first, second down running back. If you could avoid that situation, avoid it. I mean, Dario Gumawale is probably the guy that makes a ton of more sense for a ceiling, especially if you're playing PPR. But I would say, yeah, that's where I would be. Justice Hill also deserves a mention. Antonio Gibson, same thing. But those guys aren't really, like, they're still like committee backs versus like full-fledged running backs. So that's where they kind of fall tier 2. It should be probably tier 3, but depends on what people have available. Receivers. So we got Tolbert, who I picked up a couple of shares of him before some games started. Started him in one of my leagues because I was desperate, so it was desperation flex. Leggett, he left the game this past week against the Bears with a shoulder injury. He should be fine for the upcoming week. But these floating around waiver wires, he definitely becomes high because outside of him and Deontay, like, those guys should be getting the volume in Carolina. The Andy Dalton came back to earth this past week, so he's kind of like, Deontay Johnson is still a buy low for me. He didn't make the segment, but he's someone I wanted to mention because he's still, man, Deontay Johnson still has he has the target share in this offense. 29% target share right now. 56% in the red zone.
40% first read. Like he's leading all these guys, man, in targets. Yeah. He's like every way you could think of it over the last handful. Since Andy Dalton's been the starter, to the moon for Deontay.
And then some people you might catch them slipping because they may have him, they don't know how good of a receiver they still have with Deontay. So, anyway, we're talking about just receiver waiver wires, but if you could somehow trade low for Deontay Johnson, please do so. But your guy Jalen Polk's made the list, tier 1, and I think this correlates with the Drake May decision in terms of like, hey, just take him, and he's going to be one of those stash guys. Ray McLeod, he's looked pretty impressive in terms from a usage perspective in Atlanta. And the other guys, I mean, we talk about Juju Smith-Schuster, but he's still he's someone I'm prioritizing clearly because he had a monstrous 9-catch, 130-yard performance in a game where the Chiefs were just playing a ton of plays, ton of snaps. I'm not sure if I'm buying Juju as highly. I would love to see something similar-ish after the bye. But that also makes it tough. He's on a bye week this upcoming week. But he's still someone that you should definitely prioritize. Just don't put so much number 1 claim high. Probably not that high for me.
Man, a couple of those plays last night, dude, were busted secondary plays for him. Juju going 40 yards and shit like that, man. That ain't Juju's game, man. And I don't like to ever be the guy that oh, well, if you take this play out of the equation, it didn't happen. It happened. But it happened. I can't stand it when people
take big 65
oh my god, dude, it drives me insane when people are like, oh yeah, well, but it happened. If it didn't happen, we wouldn't talk about it, but it happened. So but I do think a couple of those plays you take out of there, man, you're looking at more of which is still solid production, right? For a flex play, which is what Juju would have been if you had to start him. You're probably looking at 86 yards and maybe 6 or 7 catches, which is still a good game, man. And obviously should have been a touchdown in the end zone from a pass that he didn't catch. So, obviously that would have added more to him. But, I do think Juju is definitely somebody that from a flex play, you definitely have to give him some consideration. He should be rostered for sure. I was actually expecting Justin Watson to be that guy because after the injury last week to Rashee Rice, Justin Watson, I believe he had he ran 21 routes and had 7 or 8 targets or something like that. So if Juju is going to play that role for Patrick Mahomes, he's going to have some value and should be rostered.
Of course. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're talking about a potential just copy of Rashee Rice in a sense, just a little,
I wouldn't say a poor man's Rashee Rice. I'd say a homeless man's Rashee Rice for sure. So let's slow down there, Killer.
What's the difference?
Poor man and okay, never mind. We'll keep going.
Downs only tier 2 because we don't know if Flacco is going to be starting, but he's tier 1 if Flacco's starting, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Wan'Dale's still on here because of the monstrous target share he's still getting. It's absolutely absurd. He's just not doing as much with it versus what he did a couple weeks ago. McMillan's made the list because he's still a guy in Tampa Bay that, he had a little injury last couple of weeks, but he's someone that it's going to be another one of those younger receivers that, the Romeo Odunze, ish, guys or whatever. You kind of lump them together. He's someone that if he's probably on your waiver wire, you should definitely pick him up. Mike Williams, same thing. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with this Jets offense, but I think he's worth a gamble to see what happens against Buffalo on Monday night. Worst case scenario, you just drop him. But if he's available on your waiver wire, you should be able to pick him up. But anything from this list that you wanted to mention, Johnny?
No, I just think Whittington. I think he's somebody just that I give a closer look to. I've been playing him in a couple of flex spots. If you're gonna play him, now's the time to play him because Cooper Cup and Buka are getting
I know the Rams are on bye this week, but it's still like, worth.
Yeah, but like Cooper and Puka, they're on their way back, right? So like, the window. What's up, Fizz? The window is getting ready to close pretty soon for a lot of these.
Boys?
What's up, man?
Shit. Sorry, Johnny.
That's all I got, bro. That's all I got, bro. I don't got no more, man. I don't got no more. Onto the wasteland. Onto the tight end wasteland, man. Onto the tight end wasteland.
Oh man, yo. Onto the tight end wasteland we go. Tucker Kraft, obviously a 2-touchdown performance to blow up. You know what I'm saying?
Bizzle, man, you a real one, bro. Oh shit, man.
Oh man, yeah. Johnny got distracted.
No, we just don't like. I know. No, Fizzle. All the happy man is like we immediately went to the cookout league. That's what happened. That's what happened. That's why I immediately went. I went to the
cookout league.
Yeah, I immediately went to the cookout league, man. Immediately.
Yeah. I mean, we're all kind of Fizz.
No. Don't you put me in that group. Don't you put me in that group. Baby, I'm coming up.
He said he's coming up, he says. All right.
That's right.
Okay.
I don't want to do too right. Listen, man. Get up, dog,
okay.
Man.
All right.
Oh man. Oh shit, Mizzle. Oh man.
No.
Oh
hey,
gosh.
At least you didn't get fried this past week. That's all I gotta say.
Oh man. Whew.
We're all not making the playoffs at this moment in time, but hopefully I'll turn around at least for some of us. Fizz, let me know if you want to trade, my guy. Tight ends, we got Tucker Kraft. We got, still got Taysom and Jawan Parkinson, who's on bye, and then Zach Ertz on the list. Like, let's just face it, tight end sucks. I'm gonna add Likely to the list because he was dropped in a few leagues that that shouldn't have been, in my opinion. So he's somewhat still out there. That's crazy. Because look, like Mark Andrews, although he looked actually a little bit better this past week. Woohoo! Golf clap for him. Yay, Mark Andrews. But he still was the only tight end on his roster that didn't score a touchdown this past week. Likely and Charlie Kolar scored touchdowns this week.
Charlie Kolar.
It's just like, yo, what is going on with these Ravens? Like, there was some promise, don't get me wrong, but it's like, man, like, 4 catches, 55 yards, because most productive game of the year. But obviously, Likely looking like the tight end one of the Ravens, like Charlie Kolar looking like tight end too.
Hey man, just like I've been saying all year long with Isaiah.
Tight end's definitely a wasteland though, for sure. Like it's definitely been bad. Just in general, but what are you saying, Johnny? Is there any other tight end we may have want to put on the list? I mean, Theo Johnson might be belong on the list, but I need to see another week of the Giants using the tight end position because this is the first time that they used Theo Johnson, and he had 5 catches, 48 yards. So it's like tight ends is becoming like a hoping for a touchdown situation, but then it's like, man. Like,
you know what tight end is becoming, or not even becoming. You know what tight end is? The 8-piece with sauce in a PPR. You're hoping for 4 points, 40 yards, and maybe a touchdown.
I think that's a good one.
Shut up, man! Oh my god, Dave. Don't worry, he ain't gonna be shit after Devontae and AJ come back, man. Don't even get me started. But real question though, real question. I was thinking about this the other day, I was driving and I was thinking, next year, where do you think the first tight end goes, and then what round would you draft a tight end in at this point, week 6? If you had to revisit next year, just everything kind of like projecting the same way it has right now. Like
playing crystal ball.
Yeah, like I was just thinking about this, like, you know what I mean? I was like, you know what? Because like, man, I'll get in these drafts, man. I'll do some crazy shit, man. Because I'm just like, all right, whatever. But like next year, like, think about it, man.
Fourth round to me.
Ugh.
Like third round still too. Like, some people were taking some tight ends third round or whatever. But it's fourth round for me where I begin to think about it. Fifth round is probably most ideal.
So you're going back to the well, man. I'm probably like, I don't know.
Yeah,
man,
because we can't do this like, we're just gonna, everything's gonna be different. This thing, something like this is gonna be the same for year to year, whatever. It's like we just can't do that type of stuff because that's not football. Like, would you, if you had told me that these were the results of tight end so far? At the moment in time, I have the right run. I have the right one. In enough leagues, McBride. So drafted in like fifth round, and it's been looking pretty okay so far. The ideal guy right now is probably Jake Ferguson because he's been the most healthy and whatnot. But I mean, Dallas Goedert.
They've all missed games though, man.
Dallas Goedert I hit very late, especially in the draft night out league. So it's like,
yeah, I know. Yeah, man. Yeah, you're sick, man. Sick play, bro.
No, bro, you're still top of the league.
Yeah, I know, but yeah. Anyway.
Wow, anyway, I get the guy confident. He's still like, yeah.
I turn to a hater real quick.
Whoa,
bro. Oh man, no, I was just curious, man, right? Because it just kind of got me thinking. I'm like, damn, like Evan Ingram, Kyle Pitts, like George Kittle's obviously like been, he's been solid. Like Mark Andrews, right? Like, yeah, you know what I mean. So it just got me thinking, like, is it really like the end of the world to like, and obviously conversation for another day, but just like, for people that are watching and just a thought, like, does that onesie position become very similar to quarterback where you can wait, because right now, like Tucker Kraft, like that's a guy that's on this list right now. And if he's still out there, go get him because like, to me, I look at him and I'm like, damn, like that's what it looks like right now. Like that's what we would want our tight end one to look like. And granted, no Romeo last week, man. You know what I mean? But like,
you can wait on tight end if you're thinking about doing, process wise. Like you could definitely wait. Like, and I've pretty much done that. Like I think you and I have probably both really done that for most leagues. Like, I'm taking my shots on higher tight ends, Travis Kelce, Laporta, and stuff like that. In only a couple of leagues because I want to get a little different. But that hasn't been like what hasn't been as advantage draft wise for the moment based on roster construction. Not really. But better days should be coming for both Laporta and Kelce's to make it so it's like not so like weird. But I would say, tight end's always a crapshoot. I always say this: tight end's always a crapshoot. So you just never know. It's like a box of chocolates. You really never know what you're gonna get.
Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
I think you're gonna do that.
That's one of my favorite movies, bro. I love that movie. Oh my god, it's like one of my favorite movies, bro.
But yeah, I mean, look, that's what tight end position is really all about. So I mean, Tucker Kraft is probably the winner so far. Keep close eye on Taysom because the rib injury he was coming off of, and then also Derek Carr's injury and stuff. So they could finagle with things a little bit. Spencer Rattler might make the list later on for very, very deep leagues.
Let's go.
Yeah, we didn't get there yet. So look, likely he's still out there. He's still someone I would love to have. Zach Ertz is, if you need someone potentially to play this week going against the Ravens, where again, over-under is still a little low for me. I think that over-under gets higher. I think that over-under right now is like a 42.5, 43, something like that. But yeah. Anything else for tight end, Johnny?
Nah, man, that's it, bro.
All right. Streaming defenses. We got the Eagles playing the Browns. Eagles right now are -8 favorite. Playing against the Browns. Browns are just looking very crappy. Offensive line. Deshaun Watson, who again, like, been saying this since middle of the summer. Don't do Watson, please. Don't do it. You know what I'm saying? Just don't freaking do it with Watson.
Somebody needs to get Watson like one of them premium subscriptions or something, man. I think that's what he needs to get his game back, man, because he's toast, bro. He's dust.
Watson is just it's almost time. It's almost time to make that.
Almost time, man. Yo, man, it's time to bring out famous Jameis, baby. Let's do it.
Almost that time.
Yeah.
It's almost that time. He's got maybe 1 or 2 more weeks maybe left, and that's about it. But what do you say overall when it comes to these streaming defenses? Like, who you overall like as well? Like,
well, obviously, man, you're gonna have the Houston Texans if they still out there, man, going against rookie quarterback and Drake May getting his first start of the year. So I think obviously that goes without saying. You want to do that. Also, man, like just putting some more stuff out there might not be. That's not a bad DFS play. That's not a bad game to go at, like from like a prop scoring perspective. Like New England's just been struggling all the way across the board. And then like I think I'm gonna shout out, man, too, man, the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, man, like one of the more underrated defenses.
hey yo.
Listen, man, I'll rock with you, bro. Oh, God, man, my head's hurting so bad right now. I'm laughing. Oh, God. Oh, my God. Oh, shoot, man. Oh, God. Woo. Golly, man. Oh, I can't, man. Oh, God. But yeah, man, the Falcons, bro. The Falcons going against the Panthers, right? Like, I think this is definitely a good game for them. I think the Falcons are grossly underrated on the defensive side of the ball. And a really good opportunity, obviously going against the Carolina Panthers. So I think those are 3 defenses that are out there, man, you know, in your season-long leagues if they're out there. Go ahead and go get them. Start them up for sure. Should see some big success, man.
I agree. Texans, I definitely agree with. They've been giving up some bigger pass plays, but I would say that, you know, they held Buffalo in check to 20 points. Now to get the Patriots, who's only scored, you guessed it, only 12 points per game so far this year. Now they're going to be starting a rookie QB. Yeah. Give me Houston all day because D'Amico Ryan is going to be able to handle this. You saw what he already did to Chicago and Caleb Williams. They had 6 sacks in that game.
Yeah. They're going to have that boy confused out there.
Yeah. Going to be helping them seeing stars soon as well. Another defense that probably is a little bit more available is the Green Bay Packers. They've been really well when it comes to turnover rate. They're first in the NFL. They lead the NFL in turnover rate. They're playing, you know, Arizona has just been, just been meh. You know, they beat the Niners on, I don't know how they did that. They did Kyler Houdini magic. You know, like Kyler Murray, 50-yard freaking Russian touchdown. I was like, great, wonderful.
My whole thing was like, I was like, dang, yo. All right.
He was like, motherfuckers, I'm out.
Bro, I was like, dang, I'm tripping, man.
He was out. So, that being said, that was it. But look, like I do think that the Packers are somewhat, if they're available as well. Make sure you pick them up as well for streaming defenses. Got a question here from Austin. He says, I have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Flowers, Josh Down, Allen Lazard. I mean, who should I start? I mean, you're starting Amon-Ra St. Brown. Come on.
No doubt on that.
That's not hard. Can you ask him for a real question, Austin? Come on.
Maybe he just got a little like maybe they just got like a little bit like happy and just like, you know, like maybe it's 2 receivers, you know what I mean? Like it's got to be 2 receivers. And even if
it's 2 receivers, it's Zay Flowers if you need a second.
Yeah, no doubt.
And Dustin said, "What up? What up, Dustin? Hope you got a question for us, my guy."
You already know, baby.
Hope you got a question for us, Dustin. But yeah, like that's pretty much where we at here. Dustin, you gonna give us a question, my guy? What's going on?
Yeah, you got one in there.
All right. Oh God. Never mind. Anyhow.
Oh man.
Oh, Lord, you sure you guys are not Minnesota Vikings fans now? You know,
hey man, listen. I always say this, man. I always say this. I just call it like I see it, man. I just call it like I see it. You know,
tells it like he sees it. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I told you it was two. See, Austin, I got
Hey,
your
you
back,
didn't say
yo.
that. People got to be specific.
I got you, Austin. I got you, yo. I got you. Yeah, but it's still Amon Ra and Zay Flowers for sure, man. I think Josh Downs comes into consideration. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Yo, you gotta miss it, man. We hit with the bang bangs, man. I'll go ahead and get with Austin, but yeah, Amon Ra and Zay. Josh Downs only if Joe Flacco started. But yeah, man. I think Dustin. Hi, bro. I think Dustin, man, like that running back situation, man, it's rough, bro. It's rough. It's rough right now, man. And Najee is looking, and I can't pinpoint if it's Najee or if it's just like the scheme of the offense right now. But like, just give my man some time because Najee has traditionally, and I always keep saying this, he's a second half player. He always has been. He's been a second half player. If this happens the second half of the year, man, then I will absolutely say, you know what? It was fun while it lasted. You know what I mean?
Fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes a ton of sense. Well, any final thoughts for the people out there, Johnny?
Nah, man. Just get ready for some Thursday night football. Be active on your waiver wire, man. Like we're getting to that point in time in the year where like this is the time where leagues are won and lost due to waiver wire claims and stuff like that right there, ads. Kyron Williams, man, was somebody last year that was added. That was a league winner last year. So don't give up hope, man. If you 0-5, hey, take some of the trade advice we've been giving you guys tonight. Stay active on your waiver wire, man. That's the best thing I got for you. Is that right there, man? Don't be no sucker. Don't be leaving players in your start lineup that's on buys and shit like that right there. Don't be no sucker. It's really it, man. That's what I got, bro.
He said, "Don't be no sucker."
Yeah, don't be no sucker, man. Yeah, man. Like that's the worst, bro. Don't do that. Don't do that, man. Like you messing with the whole fantasy. You messing with the whole fantasy landscape, man. When you do stuff like that, man.
That's real. Yeah, don't be an idiot. That's what I like to say too.
I was nice. I called you a sucker. He called people idiots. I was nice.
You were nice by calling people suckers, really?
Yeah. Would you rather be a sucker or an idiot?
I don't. Neither, honestly. But
a sucker idiot?
I'm just not sure what is worse, though.
Yeah.
Maybe a poll question I'll put out.
Yeah.
Would rather be called a sucker? What's more insulting? Being called a sucker or being called an idiot? I don't know. But that's going to do it for us here this evening. And we appreciate everybody that come on the show and showing us love and, keeping the fire going for us. Like, we appreciate you guys, like, all the questions that we get and the DMs that we get as well. Like, we definitely appreciate you guys.
Man, somebody send me some DMs. I'm starting to get jealous. Ain't nobody sending me no DMs. Hell, send me some DMs. You know what I mean?
If you want to follow us on Twitter, please do so because it's not X for us, it's Twitter. Saying tags are below. Feel free to show us some love. Hit the DM up, chat us with the questions, you know what I'm saying? And we got you guys covered. So next time you will see us will be on Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. We got week 6 picks, not week 5 picks.
I'd say don't want to revisit week 5. Neither one of us, hell.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, we got that for you. If you got any last minute start sit questions as well, that is a place to come in, ask those questions as well. DFS questions as well that come through. Any last minute waiver wires. There's some weird, if there's some reason there's some interesting players in your waiver wires, ask those questions as well. But we'll be there 10:30 a.m. Eastern time for week 6 picks, bets, and props show. So that does it for me and Johnny. We'll see you guys on Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Peace.